Well, good morning, all you cool cryptids and creatures. Thanks again for hanging out for another episode of Camp Cryptid. I am your host, Erica Fett, and today I'm so excited to get into my birthday episode all about ghost ships. But first, I'd like to thank everyone so much for hanging out for the last episode all about campfire tales and Bigfoot encounters, weird ghostly activity at the Alamo, more strangeness coming from the Bridgewater Triangle, and hauntings of the Bell Witch that are still happening today. But today we are going to venture out on the ocean together and explore some of the most unusual and terrifying stories of ghost ships and some of the mysteries that accompany them. And it's my birthday weekend, so my birthday is tomorrow, so I'm treating myself to some creepy nautical stories. But there's truly nothing more chilling than aimlessly wandering the vast seas. A desolate place with erratic weather, ruthless pirates, and no one around to hear the screams and cries for help. And what's truly disturbing about some of these stories is that we still don't know the truth of what really happened, leaving the mind to wonder what horrific fate these vessels and their crews truly met. These first few stories are some that you may have definitely heard of, as these are some of the more famous stories of haunted ships and ghostly sea encounters, and also some of the biggest mysteries from sailing the seas. And I thought the Mary Celeste would be a great one to kick off today's episode all about ghost ships. So the Mary Celeste is probably one of the most well-known and mysterious of these ghost ships still to this day. The Mary Celeste wasn't always called the Mary Celeste, though. In fact, she was originally known as the Amazon, and she originally ported out of Nova Scotia. But the Amazon was renamed after multiple damaging voyages that eventually left it stranded and beat up far beyond repair. Investors in the Amazon transferred the ownership to new owners, and after a few hefty repairs, she was renamed the Mary Celeste. I do want to add, though, that despite the many voyages the Mary Celeste had previously as the Amazon, where it was constantly damaged, the original captain also died from pneumonia. So despite the ship originally being commissioned to pick up lumber, the ship had to return to shore only to deliver the body of its dead captain to his widow, and that was its first delivery that it actually made. So the history of the Mary Celeste was kind of always full of these weird omens. But despite the many problems that it faced before as the Amazon, in 1872, the Mary Celeste set off for her first official voyage as the Mary Celeste from New York to Italy. And there was a crew of 7, and then the captain, his wife, and his child. A little less than a month, though, into this voyage of the Mary Celeste, another vessel, the De Gratia, spotted the Mary Celeste off the coast of Portugal, just drifting aimlessly in the mid-Atlantic. After many attempts to signal the Mary Celeste with no communication back, the crew of the De Gratia boarded and found the Mary Celeste to be completely abandoned, seemingly a ghost ship. They inspected and found the cargo fully intact, and there was even a 6-month supply of rations on board. There were no signs of struggle, and no bodies were ever found. The Mary Celeste was completely deserted by its crew and everyone on board. Now, what's also strange is that the last entry in the log from the Mary Celeste was 10 days before the Mary Celeste was found, and the weather around the time that it was estimated to be abandoned, or whatever happened, would have been very dangerous weather for the crew to leave the ship. So after the De Gratia towed the Mary Celeste back to the mainland, the Mary Celeste, seemingly abandoned, was resold. But the true fate of the Mary Celeste was really never solved. Could the Mary Celeste have been the product of mutiny? Pirates? Could it have been weather-related? Could it have been something supernatural? Or did it have to do with cargo on board that became dangerous? Could it have been as simple as equipment malfunctions? These are questions that we will always have about this weird tale, and also why the Mary Celeste will always remain one of the most famous maritime mysteries still to this day. Now, a little side note about the Mary Celeste is that's actually pretty sad because this was a beautiful ship. If you see pictures of what it looked like, it was absolutely stunning. But the sad thing is that the fate of the Mary Celeste after it was sold, after this encounter where it was abandoned in a ghost ship out in the middle of the Atlantic, is that eventually it was intentionally wrecked for an insurance fraud scheme. So it's pretty sad. I know that after a while, some crews went out there to salvage a little bit of what was left for, history. So the Mary Celeste was kind of doomed from the beginning, I suppose. Now, this next one is a little bit about the Queen Mary. And the Queen Mary is one of my absolute favorites. And I've actually been on it and have experienced how truly eerie this ship is. It's enormous, first off. And I'm absolutely obsessed with the Art Deco designs on it. And when you step on board, you're actually transported back in time to what it would have felt like back in its prime. And I can only imagine how stunning it would have been during those times. If you've never seen the Queen Mary, just think the Titanic, basically. It is literally, it looks like the Titanic. It has the beautiful interior of the Titanic. And that's because it was actually a luxury liner back in the day. But anyways, when I first was aboard the Queen Mary, there was this area, the first class pool area actually, that gave me the weirdest vibes. As I looked through the glass doorway into the empty pool area, it was, well, something straight out of a horror movie. The empty pool room was lit by the lights in the back that just, of course, flickered on and off. That made it even more creepy and unsettling and definitely gave me the haunted vibe. And when we were walking around the massive ship, we would actually walk multiple corridors and walk in different rooms, and we wouldn't even see a single person. But that only made me think about how truly eerie and creepy and unsettling it would have been to be cruising the desolate, endless ocean on this ship. And it made it that much more terrifying to think about. But the pool area is also where spirits are said to roam, which truthfully doesn't surprise me at all after seeing it. So the spirit of a little girl who actually drowned in the pool is said to lurk around the area. And many visitors to the Queen Mary also say that they hear splashes and see apparitions and ghosts in vintage swimsuits just roaming this area as well. So the pool area is definitely an area for some ghostly activity. But it's no surprise that the pool isn't the only area in the Queen Mary known for ghosts. This entire ship has about 98 areas. Literally so many areas that are known for ghostly activity. Basically, the entire ship is a ghost ship. And if you go visit it, you're going to know exactly why. But the Queen Mary has served not only as a luxury liner, but it also carried troops during World War II. The Queen Mary has truly seen it all, and it has the ghost stories to prove it. I mean, in World War II, it was actually painted gray and had the nickname the Gray Ghost, which may have been an omen for a later event where the Queen Mary had a collision when it was out to sea, and it collided with a smaller boat, causing the smaller boat to sink, and tragically, all 300 people on that smaller boat perished. So talk about a dark history and the makings of a real ghost ship, right? But the Queen Mary had many other tragedies aboard. Everything from accidental poisonings to a man being crushed in a door, to a brutal murder of a man stuffed into an oven, to many suicides of people jumping over the decks. This beautiful liner's history is pretty much everything but beautiful. So truly, you have everything from haunted engine rooms to haunted staterooms to ghosts roaming the decks of this ship. From top to bottom, the Queen Mary is absolutely a ship full of ghosts. Now, if you go to Long Beach in California, that's where the Queen Mary is actually docked right now. And I know at one time you were able to stay overnight in the Queen Mary because it became a hotel and a little museum for the Queen Mary. And honestly, if you get a chance to go there, I would highly recommend taking the tour. For those of you who love the Titanic, it's the closest you're going to get to the Titanic that you can stay in. And I love it. It was so much fun. And my husband and I went there, oh my goodness, like in 2016, I want to say. And we were staying at a hotel that was close by. And then we realized the Queen Mary was right there. So we just literally walked right there to the Queen Mary and we did the tour. And like I said, it was really great because there was only maybe like 5 other people touring it that day. So we would walk and walk and walk throughout the Queen Mary and there was no one around. And when you're walking, like I said, the corridors, they're long. And it's super creepy because it is very true still to the Art Deco design. So you really do get transported back in time when you're aboard the Queen Mary. So I would highly recommend, if you are in that area, to definitely go check out that museum. And fingers crossed, I'm crossing my fingers right now, y'all. My eyes are closed. I'm like willing this into existence. I would love, love, love to do an episode on the Queen Mary. That is, I always say, like, every episode, I'm like, okay, this is my dream to do this. Okay, I have a lot of big plans, right? And this is one of them. So let's just manifest this right now. Me aboard the Queen Mary, doing a fun little episode on the Queen Mary. That's my dream. Okay. So this next story is truly bizarre. When I was researching for this episode, I was like, there are so many weird maritime mysteries and all these nautical stories of these ghost ships and weird things that happened out on sea. And, you know, I've talked a lot about ocean monsters, the Kraken, giant squid. I love the ocean. It is truly magnificent, and it's something to respect and admire, but also to fear. And this next story is exactly why I fear the ocean. So the SS Ourang Medan, if you haven't heard of it, this is truly one that I would say after this episode, go do a deep dive, because when I found out about this, I was like, well, I don't have an answer for that one. Now, this one is truly bizarre. The story of the SS Ourang Medan is that a distress signal in the Indian Ocean was heard by numerous stations and vessels in the area. Basically, a bunch of Morse code distress calls came in asking for a doctor, and then a warship, and then the last communication that came from the Ourang Medan was a Morse code signal that said, "I die." So when the Silver Star, a ship close to the scene, arrived hours later to the Ourang Medan after all of these weird random distress signals, what the Silver Star encountered was truly quite eerie and terrifying. It was a ghost ship. No crew could be seen on the decks. No one was seen in the captain's pit. No one could be seen to be steering or in command of this ship. So the crew of the Silver Star decided to board the Ourang Medan to do an investigation and find the crew that sent these distress signals. But what the crew of the Silver Star found on board was far beyond what they expected. The crew of the Ourang Medan was found frozen dead, with their faces in states of terror and their bodies in a state of rapid decomposition. Some of these bodies looked as if they were reaching out in front of them or above them, trying to fend off something that was attacking from above. Even the dog on board was found frozen with his teeth showing. Now, I said earlier that their bodies were also in a rapid state of decomposition, which was also very strange considering that these distress calls were only hours before that. So, as the crew investigated the Ourang Medan, they were absolutely perplexed at what could have caused this freak accident, noting that none of the bodies on board the Ourang Medan had any visible wounds on them to cause this. The captain of the Silver Star decided to hook up the Ourang Medan to be towed and inspected back in the mainland, knowing that this was truly a very bizarre and unexplainable occurrence that definitely needed more eyes on it. As the crew of the Silver Star was inspecting more of the Ourang Medan, they started to smell smoke, and then the smoke became more visible as time progressed. So the crew of the Silver Star evacuated the Ourang Medan, and shortly later, the Ourang Medan burst into explosions and sunk into the ocean. So the true fate of what really happened on board on the Ourang Medan is truly a mystery. So there is actually a newspaper article from the 1940s, because a lot of people thought that this was just an urban legend. But there is actually a newspaper article that outlined this and the truly bizarre experience. So there is definitely something weird about this. And some people wondered if the Ourang Medan was maybe carrying some type of gases or any type of dangerous or hazardous materials on board. But it's still very strange that these people were frozen in place, even the dog, decomposing rapidly afterwards. And this is truly a bizarre one. And I want to say that is there an X-Files episode about this? Because there should be. You would think with me being like the total X-Files freak that I am, that I would know this. But this definitely is a very strange and weird and bizarre story. And the fact that the Ourang Medan just burst into flames and explosions and just sunk, we'll never truly really know what happened that day. So it's just kind of left up in the air. So if one of you goes and you do a deep dive of this and you have any theories of your own about the Ourang Medan, I would love to hear it. Like I said, this one is a truly bizarre one. And when I read it, I was like, I have to throw that one in today because it was too good. Too good. Now, there are so many stories of ghost ships, right? Because since the age of exploration, we have had so many people sailing the seas and also people just trying to, be explorers, which I absolutely love. I can only imagine how amazing it would have been back then, sailing the ocean, being an explorer, being an adventurer, and then you have the idea of treasures and pirates, and it just was like this weird, wonderful time in exploring. But one of my favorite legends of a ghost ship, and this is one that's pretty much in popular culture. We see it in Pirates of the Caribbean. It's got musicals about it. It's pretty popular, and it's the Flying Dutchman. Now, the Flying Dutchman is more of a legend of the sea, and it dates back to the 1600s, the age of exploration, when Captain Hendrik van der Decken was rounding the Cape of Good Hope off the coast of South Africa. Now, as a strong storm rolled in, Captain van der Decken persisted, swearing that he would succeed on his voyage and make it to his destination despite the bad weather, even if he had to sail his ship until the end of time. And that's basically what happened. He got what he wished for, and that's why the Flying Dutchman became a ghost ship, and it was cursed to sail the seas as a phantom ship for the rest of eternity. Now, on top of this, if any other ship out to sea spots the fog rolling in, followed by the Flying Dutchman surrounded by its otherworldly, eerie glow, it's actually an omen of doom and disaster for that ship and all who set eyes upon the Flying Dutchman. So I thought that this was a great little way to end this episode on this cursed ghost ship, because who doesn't love cursed ghost ships, right? Full of pirates and explorers. Now, I will say there are so many other stories of ghost ships like the MV Joyita, the HMS Terror, the Octavius, the Carol A. Deering. So I think I might follow this up with a part 2 of ghost ships. I think that that's kind of the way that I want to go, because I can't get enough of the ocean and I can't get enough of mystery. So don't tempt me with a good time, because you're going to get it. Now, along with all of these great stories over time, right, that have been told, musicals that have been made, movies, I have to say the first movie that came to mind that I think that everybody should watch when it comes to ghost ships is, drumroll, Ghost Ship. Duh. I think that one has one of the best, most shocking intros of movies, especially horror movies. And it was, it's a prime example of ghost ships. I love it. And, when it comes to ghost ships and mysteries of the sea, there are tons of movies when it comes to, getting your fill of these. And like I said, Pirates of the Caribbean obviously talks about the Flying Dutchman, the cursed crew that has barnacles, all over them because they've been sailing for so long, right? But also, there's a movie called The Triangle, and I believe that that's about the Bermuda Triangle. There are plenty of movies about the Mary Celeste. There are movies about the Queen Mary. I think I said, oh my gosh, like 15 episodes ago, I was joking around about how I watched the Titanic 666. Yes, I thought that one was a really fun movie. But I will say, if you have any recommendations of great ghost ship movies, right, that just are great. I think even Ghostbusters, right? Ghostbusters has that little scene where the ghost ship comes in, right? Isn't that the movie I'm thinking? If I'm wrong, I'm totally wrong, and I'm sorry, but I think that that's the one. But, I mean, ghost ships are just cool, right? I mean, who doesn't love a pirate ghost ship that's cursed to just wander the seas, right? I mean, it sucks for them, but pretty cool for the rest of us, so... So yeah, that's amazing. I love talking about the sea and mysteries of the sea and all that nautical goodness. So what I watched recently, I finally watched Longlegs, thankfully. Jeez, Petey's, it took me long enough, right? I told y'all with my dog having his amputation surgery, it's been a little hectic here, but we did get to treat ourselves to watching Longlegs. I love Nicolas Cage, and it was a great one. I thought it was really entertaining, and I just really enjoyed that. Now, I will say another movie that I watched recently that I really enjoy. I like this series. To me, this is a really fun series. Is Horror in the High Desert, and I watched Horror in the High Desert 3: Firewatch. And for those of you who like all the creepy goodness of being out in the middle of the desert, this is for you. I'm telling you, I can't even, I don't even want to say too much because like anybody who's watched these movies know that it gives you so little, but your mind just wanders and it just like, your mind is like constantly like, okay, I need more, obviously. So like those movies right there, if you have not watched that, I highly recommend it. I don't want to give anything away, but there's like haunted ghost towns in the middle of the desert, the weird stuff. I mean, what more can you ask for? So I would highly recommend those if you have not watched those yet. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing. And for my birthday, I'm going to go get me some good food tonight and I'm going to enjoy and hopefully, start researching this part 2 of ghost ships that I'm going to do next month for September because it's already September. Like, what is time? I say this like every other episode and I'm sorry, but what is time? So yeah. I hope y'all enjoyed it. And if you have any good ghost stories out to sea, or if you think that there is a ghost ship story that you would love for me to dive into for the next episode, please, please, please let me know. And with that being said, too, if you have any creepy stories that are, anything to do with cryptids or mysteries or paranormal encounters, or you saw a UFO, please send it in for a Campfire Tales. I plan on doing another one at the end of September. And I just love reading all of this strangeness that happens across Earth from everyone. It's like we bond over this weirdness, right? So yes, please go to campcryptidpod.com. There's a little contact section where you guys can send me your movie suggestions, ghost ship suggestions, and all the creepy Campfire Tales stories that you guys send in. So I would love that. Now, if you are liking what you're hearing and you're like, heck yeah, I love this, or if you even hate it, I want to hear it, right? So go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave me a review. Let me know how you're liking things. And if you enjoy hanging out with me for these like 20-minute episodes, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. And I hope wherever you are in this world, you're enjoying some good food, some sunshine rays on that beautiful face of yours, and go dive into some fun stories about ghost ships. Yeah, like let's get to investigating, y'all. We got a lot of mysteries to solve. So, all right, gang. So yeah, thanks again so much for everybody hanging out for another episode. I truly enjoy these. And y'all bless me with being able to read about all these cool mysteries of the ocean. So thank you so much. And hey, have a great weekend. And until next time, take care.